So my my mindset and focus and existence was really quite similar, day in and day out on competition day, whether it be football or skiing. I'll start with skiing. It was a very eerie feeling of calmness, of really nothing going on outside of only things that were relevant to me doing well, and those were things, whatever the course may present that day, whatever the challenges I had during that week, the keys. I would always create a series of short keys of what I needed to do to ski my best. Early on in my career, I was more focused on the exterior things I couldn't control, like who I was competing against, or who was at the competition, who was watching me, or who I was, dueling against, or my skis, if they were the right, all kinds of things. I think it's pretty normal for athletes to have self-defeating thoughts of, you'll be visualizing your run and you'll fall. And what I learned when I think really started to dominate the sport and really ski to my potential was when I kind of employed this mentality of, I called it mind like a river. And I just visualized this free-flowing river through my head and through my brain, and really wouldn't allow anything to attach to that. So feelings of self-defeat or concerns about whatever, or problems outside of what my focus was, they just really began to flow through my head. It was also at the time where I transitioned into listening to really kind of pump-up music or rap music before a race, to more classical, relaxed, more Zen-like philosophy. I read a book that changed my competitive life, The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. And there's a series of topics in there that really helped me. One was letting go of your need to win, which was pretty foreign for an individual athlete, because you really compete to win. But I felt like my desire to win was more distracting than beneficial. And when I was really able to let go of that, and what I mean by that is little examples, like if a teammate and I were training together and I knew some key to the course, I'd point it out to him. So, you might want to do this differently and help. Really just let go of that kind of internalness, holding everything inside, and like me against the world, to just, me against myself. It freed my, mentality. And the other one was, that I recall, is just letting go of your ego. Your accomplishments don't define you. Medals don't define you. Playing in the NFL doesn't define you. Being a world champion, Olympian, that's not what defines you. What defined me was the continual pursuit to climb to the top of that mountain, inside myself. So, going back to the question of mindset, I think when I really achieved the best mental position that I think I ever had is when my mind was like a river, and I built a tunnel really around what was important, and the things outside of that tunnel never got in, and sometimes if they would just flow right out. And it was like this not a lot of thoughts at all, very simple.
What did you experience in your body right before a competition?
The body was always different. Your body would sometimes feel great, other times injured, other times tired, other times sick. Your body was what really fluctuated the most. My body was what fluctuated the most. But I found that a lot of times, the more nervous I was, the more tired I would be. Your mind would attack a little bit more. You would worry a little bit more. You would process more thoughts that would tire you out or make you feel sick. Very rarely would I feel amazing physically. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Would you say that's true with other athletes?
I don't know. It's not something I've really asked or spoken to people about, especially in football. Skiing less so, but before football games, especially in college, very rarely would I feel physically amazing. I'd feel good. I'd feel like I was ready, prepared. Mentally, I would feel great. But physically, you go through a lot of nicks, bruises, injuries, things like that.
So it seems like the mental game was the foundation of where you pulled your success from because your physicalness changed.
Yeah, the mentality that I kind of employed was at that level. When you're competing with the best in the world, and this is not revolutionary, a lot of people talk about it, but I think it's true. Mentally is what separates the top from the bottom. I always look back at the Olympics. I think time in and time out, the Olympics means something to. There's a spectrum of not important at all to life-changing, life-altering, most amazing thing in the world. I think athletes that do the best at those types of situations, the Olympics, rules, are the athletes that are more centered towards the middle. I think the probability goes way down if you're an athlete that thinks that the Olympics would define you by winning or they spent every day of your waking life dreaming about them. I think it's harder for those athletes. So I think it's managing your own expectations with the quality of competition or quality of the event.
So you said, that's kind of a known, that mentality. What is it about you that may be a little bit different that's not so known in general? I'm real interested in the things that people don't know, even if it's just about you and nobody else.
I would say everything I just went over, outside of just the blatantly obvious importance of mental preparation. Most people don't know kind of what I was thinking on competition day or what went through my head or the things that were career-defining principles and learning to manage different things. Mm-hmm. I would say that.
So if you can imagine yourself in that minute or 2 minutes right before leaving the starting gate,
mm-hmm.
Are there different stages within those last couple minutes that you go through in your mental, physical preparation?
Yeah, but for skiing, there's a big barrier. First of all, you can't really see the course until you're in the gate. So when there's two people in front of you, you're on deck. And they say, Bloom, you're on deck. During that time, it was just shaking your legs out, stretching a little bit, warming up, just kind of getting your body ready. Less mental. And then the next person would go, and you'd be in the hole, so you're up next. And then as soon as that guy would, take off, I always waited until that person completed the run. I never wanted to see from behind them skiing. So as soon as they were done, that's when kind of there's this man-made barrier, and all of a sudden you enter from this darkness into the playing field, and the light comes. And that was always when the mental game kicked in. And what I would do is look at the 6 inches in front of my face and say that's the single most important turn. That's all I need to worry about. If I make a good turn there, I know that my skills will carry me down the way. So I wouldn't get too far ahead of myself. And then I would build this kind of barrier, this tunnel around the course. And then I would only focus in on the snow and the jumps and the keys. And then that barrier was built so nothing else could get in. Didn't matter what TV cameras were there. Didn't matter if my parents were there. Didn't matter what it was. It was just a single focus of the snow, my keys, and the 6 inches in front of my face. And that was pretty consistent.
That's a great description. That's exactly the description I was looking for. It's just you and how you experience that.
Yeah.
Interesting, I've talked to other Olympic athletes in sort of target sports, and they have that same funnel experience.
Yeah.
Only they describe it as their target, whether it's rifle shooters or bow and arrow or even curlers. sports. They had that same experience when they go up to shoot.
Yeah. No, I think every athlete that's successful learns it, and it's not because they create it. They learn it out of necessity. They were competing at a time where a thought got in and attached, and they couldn't let go, and it messed them up. It certainly happened to me. And you create that out of necessity. That's when, it's part of climbing that mountain. You learn so much more about yourself at times of defeat. When you don't prepare right, or you don't perform up to your own standards, and that's when you kind of lay things out and say, this went well, but this really caught me off guard. This thought got in my head, and it just really messed me up. Well, read some books, talk to some people, try some other things. And, it took me a long time to develop those skills.
Ended up doing well.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. If you were to give some advice to entrepreneurs, because now you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So you're an athlete and an entrepreneur, the two populations that are joining in this book. What advice would you give them, both as an entrepreneur and as a world-class athlete?
I think it really depends on what stage you are in your entrepreneurship. If you've never done it before and you're starting out and you have this idea, my advice to those types of people are that don't hold on too tight to your idea. Ideas aren't worth anything. I've never seen an idea be successful. I've seen the execution of an idea become very successful. So I would say is, one, try to partner with somebody that complements your weaknesses. That's what I was able to do. Find a business partner who complements your weaknesses, and you complement each other. And then from there, as you start to build and as it starts to become successful, as hopefully it does, hire talent. I think that's the single most important lesson that I've learned in the last 2.5 or 3 years, having two companies. One that grew from 0 revenue to over a lot, and 0 employees to 40. Is hiring talented people, because it's those people that build ideas.
Mm-hmm.
You always need somebody that is kind of that 40,000-foot level view, that can pick out that big picture thinker, that person that can look out opportunities and uncover ideas and say, what about this? And then you need people below that can be architects to build to where you want to go. So you need builders, but you need visionaries. You need a complement of both. I see more kind of the core of a company as the building blocks, and then you can get into business development, and some of those people think kind of more outside the box and bring kind of a line, whatever business or company you're in, at more intersection points, and create partnerships at intersection points where a lot of people are transacting, and that you can create, through that one avenue, partnership can spin off to 1,000 directions that bring business in. But I think you need a really good combination of visionaries and architects, and much more architects than you can't have too many visionaries. But
yeah, that's like too many chefs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Are
you a visionary?
Yeah, that's always been my strength. It's just always been, for my nonprofit, for the companies, for sports, and in sports. You'd think that I was the architect as well, but many times I wasn't. I just was blessed to be around so many great people, coaches, trainers, advisors, that I would, the visionary for then was the Olympics, the NFL. That was it. That was my existence since I was 9 years old until I retired when I was 27, 26. That was it. That was it. And in both kind of sports, I was able to, surround myself with the right people, which made all the difference in the world. But eventually, accomplished both of those. So I take the same. I can't change. So for the company and for the nonprofit and for everything I do now, that's really where my benefit is. It's creating the big partnerships, the big ideas, and kind of not like micromanaging the direction of the daily ship, but making sure that I'm looking at that 40,000-foot view. And here's the destination, and here's where we're going. And if I feel like we're a little off track, doing things to shift back.
How did you get into web info? That seems very different for you.
I went to Wharton when I was playing football for the Eagles. I did an entrepreneurship in actually real estate and finance, but that's where I developed my passion for business. So real estate was my first kind of business. I started out when I was 17, just buying places and handing them over to corporate leasing companies. So I was really considering development, but I didn't like the idea of limiting yourself to bricks and mortars. And I didn't like that the limitations of that build. So I love .com. I love the technology space. I love the expansiveness of the internet. There's very little barriers that you can set. There's very little things you can't accomplish online with the amount of scale, the amount of people online. So I started my first .com company, and this is where I learned that ideas don't do anything for you, because it was a great idea, very bad execution, and it didn't even get off the ground. Second idea was a good idea.
So you have failed once in your life.
Oh, I failed much more in my life than I've succeeded. Much more.
Are you afraid to fail?
No. It's weird. You can find different levels of failure, but I love I don't look at it as failures. I look at it as setbacks, and I love setbacks. Because I think every setback gives you an opportunity to separate from everyone else. Because everybody experiences the same setbacks. But it's the people or group of people that can take an experience, whether you messed up or whatever the case may be, and solve it. It's like that complicated math equation of saying, all right, this is awesome. I mean, this is an area where if we solve this one problem, we'll be able to get to where we want to go. We'll take that next step up. So I love the challenges of those setbacks and the opportunities that they present.
That is one of my top secrets, by the way, is that world class have the courage to fail.
Yeah, I think the only true failure in life is lessons that you don't learn. You don't really fail unless you learn from that. I guess my definition of a failure would be a setback that was never solved. That would be a failure to me. Outside of that, there's not much, in business or sports that I would look at as a failure, unless you didn't figure out how to overcome it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Have you ever been scared? Do you ever get scared as an athlete or as a business person?
Oh yeah, of course. Often.
What scared you? What scares you?
Yeah, I mean, I was the smallest guy in a football field. I was 5'9", 175 pounds, running around with people that are 6'3", 265 pounds, and were almost as fast as I was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of fear that goes into that. But I remember a very defining moment in my life, and it was our defensive line coach, Chris Wilson. When I started playing for the University of Colorado my freshman year, and I was small. My freshman year, I might have been 160, I don't know.
Nice size.
I was small.
Yeah.
It was right after the Olympics. I was just starting to play college football. And it was a training camp, and each coach had got this opportunity to talk to the whole group of people. 15 minutes, Coach Barnett gave him. He was this real kind of like deep voice, motivational type of guy, and he just, part of his, most of his speech was, don't ever allow fear to get in the way of your dreams. And it just hit me so much. And really that day, for football, I never stepped onto a football field without willing to sacrifice my own body and likelihood for the better good of me and the team. Getting yourself to that point is hard. I mean, that's why I say I very rarely physically felt great, because getting your mind to that level, it's many steps below war, but the same principles. When you get yourself to say, you know what, if somebody breaks my leg today, I'm okay with that. Or if somebody, God forbid, breaks my neck, I'm willing to take that sacrifice. for me, that's the only way I could play football, with that kind of reckless abandonment and just to say, it's in somebody else's hands. And so, of course, I felt fear, but I had to be able to manage it.